Hello, Professor Graham Shevgig.
Greetings, namaste.
Namaste. And we have one more professor to join who will be chairing this session. And we have uh, with us Professor Nagaraju, who is the Vice Chancellor of EPFLU, who he will be joining very shortly from now. And welcome to this evening session, the second day of our conference on Dharma studies, which is a unique one. And you are most welcome, sir. What do I do? I mean,
Thank you.
okay, I had the pleasure of introducing the guest, Professor Nagaraju, for some reason not known to us, isn't with us. So we begin, and I have the pleasure to introduce the speaker to the people here. Professor Graham Schweig joined the faculty of Christopher Newport University in the fall of 2000. Prior to this, he was teaching fellow at Harvard University, lecturer at University of North Carolina and Duke University, and while teaching at CNU, he has for 2 years visiting associate professor of Sanskrit at the University of Virginia. He has been recognized several times for excellence in teaching, including the annual Alumni Faculty Award. Ah, has he joined? Okay, but let me. So, and he has delivered lectures widely in the US and Europe and has been invited to be a consultant on doctoral dissertation committees or a doctoral dissertation examiner in both the US and India as well as Australia. And he has over 100 published journals in encyclopedia articles and chapters of books and reviews of books, and several books. The most well known among them is Bhagavad Gita, the beloved Lord's secret love song, which was brought out by HarperCollins. And he has published and is currently publishing books with Princeton, Oxford, Yale, Columbia, among others. And along with his teaching at CNU, Professor Schweig is also currently distinguished teaching and research faculty at the Center of Dharma Studies at the Graduate Theological Union at Berkeley, California. So, most welcome, sir, to this academic session here on a very interesting topic, dharmic boundaries and boundaries of love. So, we look forward to your learned talk.
Thank you so much
I,
for your
I have
introduction.
the pleasure of introducing Professor Nagaraju also, who happens to be a good friend and colleague of mine. Hello, Professor Nagaraju. Are you mute by any chance? Or hello, Professor Nagaraju. Ashok Mahapatra here. Hello.
Yes, his microphone is
Good
on mute.
evening, Professor
Oh,
Ashok.
there
I
we go.
Good evening. Yeah.
yeah. So here
And
we
Dr. Rath, good evening.
yes.
And I join you in welcoming Professor.
Yeah. Right. So I won't stand between the two stalwarts, and I quietly withdraw, and I will be watching. And I look forward to enjoying this talk.
Thank you so much. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see if this can work. Let's see here. Excuse me. Let's see. How do I do this? Allow share window screen. Okay, let's see what it allows me to share. Am I sharing the screen successfully?
So, yes,
You can see my screen?
we do.
I'm just wondering, I can't see what you're seeing. So you can see this slide here?
Well, it's a temple and with the title of your lecture and
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. Um, good. Okay, so I'll work with that if that's okay. And let's see here. Okay, great. Well, look, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this conference for inviting me to speak on this topic and the general topic of Dharma, and then, of course, my specific topic on which I'd like to focus today. Yes, Dharmic boundaries and boundless love, the Parodharma of Krishna Bhakti, according to Chaitanya Vaishnavism. So, in doing this, I would like to first introduce the particular text on which I'd like to focus, which is from the Bhagavata Purana, the famous Ras Lila Panchadhyayi, the 5 chapters that focus on the Ras Lila of Krishna. Now, many of you already know that the Bhagavata Purana is very special among the 18 Puranas. It's known as the Amala Purana, the pure Purana, because very little has been tainted by manuscript changes and different ascensions of different texts and so on. So it's a very pure text, and it's also the text of Krishna Bhaktas, a text that they value and treasure among all the other Puranas. And within the 335 chapters of the Bhagavata Purana, spread among 12 books, the 5 chapters are hallowed as being the greatest and the most exalted. One commentator called it the Sarva Leela Chudamani, the crown jewel of all Leelas. Another commentator said of the Rasa Leela, the 5 chapters, is the Leela Sara, the essence of Leelas, of all Leelas. So this is where I'm going to understand the nature of Dharma in relation to Bhakti and how it functions to yield the highest level of Dharma. Okay, and so recently I did produce this book, The Yoga of Love, Krishna and the Ras Lila, from the Bhagavata Purana, produced by Oxford University Press. And I'll be speaking a lot from that recent publication, the front cover of which is shown here. Okay, this is Oxford University Press, not from India, but New York. But I'm assuming that it will be available across the globe. So the Rasa Panchadhyayi's Yoga of Love presents a very, very informative, but also somewhat entertaining presentation of Dharma. And its brilliant passage is some of the most beautiful poetry known in the world of poetry. I mean, it is an exquisite piece of literature. As my one of my doctoral teachers at Harvard University, Daniel Ingalls, a foremost Sanskrit professor in the Western world in the 20th century, he said, it is the most enchanting poem ever written. Now, those are strong words, but I think they're correct words because it is an extraordinary piece of literature, even as compared with the rest of the Bhagavata text out of which it comes. These 5 chapters are especially exquisite. There are also some other beautiful, beautiful chapters, the Venu Gita, chapter 21. And there are other select passages that are especially poetic. So the 5 chapters have a structure, and I've called them acts, even though these are chapters 29 through 33 in the Dashama Skanda. They really form 5 acts as in a drama. And the first act, and excuse me for those of you who already know the storyline, the dramatic theme, but basically this is a quick outline. Krishna tracks the Vrajagopikas and he disappears from them in the first act. The second act, the gopis search for Krishna in everything, everywhere, in nature, in the animals, even in the little tiny vines growing on the forest floor, and so on and so forth. And then in the third act, the Song of the Gopis, the famous Gopi Gita, as it's called, as it's known for. This is a chapter or an act in which the Vrajagopikas speak 18 verses in separation of their beloved Krishna. In Act 4, Krishna reappears and speaks of the nature of love. And we'll be visiting some of those statements in that act. And then finally, Act 5 is the Rasa dance, the famous circle dance. The Rasa Mandala is formed in the first 20 verses, and then the whole drama is concluded in the final, in the next 20 and final verses of the chapter. These 13, these are the 13 scenes, the way they appear to break up in the 5 chapters. These are not indicated in the text itself overtly, but the contour of the verses and the way the poetic structure of the text easily breaks down into these 13 scenes. And I like to point out this sort of beautiful symmetry of these 5 chapters. And I've gone into this in quite some depth in the original book that I produced that's unabridged, published 20 years ago by Princeton University Press, called The Dance of Divine Love. So in these 5 chapters, or 5 acts, it's scene 1 of Act 5 in which the great circle dance takes place, or the rasa dance, for which this 5 acts episode is known, is most, and it's most celebrated among them. But I'd like to immediately take you to the final verse of all 5 acts, because this final verse gives us a clue as to what the whole point of the Leela is, and it will give us a clue as to understand and how to appreciate the theme of Dharma in this passage. This is the divine play of Vishnu with the fair maidens of Vraja, one who is filled with faith, who hears or describes this play, having regained the highest devotion for the beloved Lord, has lust, the disease of the heart, quickly removed without delay. Such a person is peaceful and wise. So the whole point of this Leela is to purify the heart. And this is why I present this final concluding verse of the whole 173 verses that make up these 5 acts, to show that the whole point of this is for the purification of the heart. Now, in order to appreciate how this passage takes the reader from the conditioned state of the heart to the pure state of the heart, I've broken it down into the 4 following stages. Okay, one is the worldly conditioning of the heart. And surely this is where it all begins in the Ras Lila. The Vraja Gopikas are in their homes. They are performing their womanly duties as a wife, as a mother, as a woman in society, and so on and so forth. All of these sort of societal dharmic expectations. Then there is an awakening, an opening of the heart. And this occurs when the Vraja Gopikas hear the sound of Krishna's flute. And we'll be reviewing some of the verses that introduce this, this love call coming through the sound of the flute that Krishna produces. So this is the awakening of an opening of the heart. The third stage is the purification and deepening of the heart. And the Vraja Gopikas go through various stages of their affections in their affections for Krishna and their devotion to Krishna that moves them through this phase of purification and deepening of the heart, and then finally the free-flowing and overflowing of the heart. And this is most beautifully depicted in the formation of the great circle dance, the Rasa Lila, the Rasa dance, in the mandala of dancers. And we will visit that briefly in this talk. So first, the very first verse is quite beautiful. Bhagavan apita ratri sharadotpu lamallika diksharantu manas chakre yogamayam upashritaha. Even the beloved Lord, seeing those nights in autumn filled with blooming jasmine flowers, turned his mind toward love's delights, fully taking refuge in Yoga Maya's elusive powers. And so I have this illustrated here, this verse illustrated a little bit as best I can. So this is the opening verse, which announces that Krishna is utterly moved by the beauteous scene in front of him and is moved to play his flute. And this is expressed in the following verses. Seeing lotus flowers bloom and the perfect circle of the moon, beaming like the face of Rama, reddish as fresh kumkuma. Seeing the forest colored by the moon's gentle rays, began to make sweet music, melting the hearts of fair maidens with beautiful eyes. Again, the Sanskrit here is absolutely beautiful, but we don't have time to recite all of it. So this is Krishna in this illustration playing his flute, and you can see the jasmine flowers surrounding in him in the forest, and the full moon behind his beautiful face, and he's lifting his flute to play it and to send out the love call to the Vraja Gopikas. Upon hearing that sweet music, their passion for him swelling, the young women of Vraja, whose minds were captured by Krishna, unaware of one another, ran off toward the place where their beloved was waiting, with their earrings swinging wildly. Okay, so here is where the Vraja Gopikas have left their home, have left the realm of worldly dharma. And I say worldly not because it's worldly per se, but these are activities performed in the world according to the dharmic ways, according to their natures, according to their what is in harmony with their universe. But here, it's explaining that suddenly they're departing from all of this. Some left abruptly while milking the cows. Due to excitement, the milking had ceased. Some left the milk as it boiled over. Others departed, leaving cakes on the hearth. Some suddenly stopped dressing themselves, or others no longer fed children their milk. Some left their husbands who had not yet been served. Others, while eating, abandoned their meals, etc., etc. And so you can see, here's an illustration of one of the Vrajagopikas running out to the forest. However, some gopis, unable to leave, had gone inside their homes with eyes closed, fully absorbed in love. They meditated upon Krishna. The intense burning of unbearable separation from their dearest beloved disrupted all inauspiciousness. Due to the joy of embracing the Chuta attained through meditation, even their worldly happiness was lost. Here's a beautiful painting of one of those Vrajagopikas. They could not leave, but she did leave. So, in other words, the Vrajagopikas either left their homes and went out to the forest, or the Vrajagopikas sat in meditation and went into their hearts. And so that, either way, the Vrajagopikas left their homes, left the worldly realm. Let's see here. Oh, we just read that. Okay, here we go. Certainly he is the supreme soul, though they knew him intimately as their lover. They relinquished their bodies, composed of material elements, and any worldly bondage was instantly destroyed. The narrator of the passage, Shuka, sage Shuka, is saying here that in effect they died to the world. They relinquished their bodies, composed of material elements. So this is in some way a death narrative. The king to whom this whole passage was being spoken asks this question. They knew Krishna, however, as the greatest lover and not as the source of Brahman. O sage, how did the underlying current of natural forces stop affecting their minds controlled by such forces? The sage Shuka spoke. This was explained to you previously. If the king Chedi could achieve perfection even while despising Rishikesh, why would not they, so dear to Atokshaja, be much more likely to do so? For the purpose of benefiting all, O king, the beloved Lord manifests himself. He is imperishable, immeasurable, unbound by the forces of nature, the soul from whom such powerful forces arise. And so on. So the Shuka is assuring the king that this is a special event because of the Vrajagopika's attraction to the Supreme Lord in the form of Lord Krishna. Now we get to the scene number 3 here, which is very significant. Because this is where, in Krishna's flirtatious words upon receiving the Vrajagopikas in the forest, this is where he demonstrates how he moves between Dharma and Parodharma, how he moves between the ethical boundaries of Dharma to a boundless love of Parodharma. Seeing they had arrived nearby, the beloved Lord then approached the young women of Vraja. He, most eloquent of all speakers, began to converse with them, bewildering them with playful words. The beloved Lord spoke, "Welcome, most fortunate ladies. What can I do to please you? Is all going well in Vraja? Please explain the purpose of your arrival." And then in Sanskrit, there is a double entendre. He's saying something negative to them, and then he says something, it can be read positively as well. And the negative part is obviously promoting the idea of Dharma, maintaining Dharma, preserving Dharma, and yet going beyond Dharma. So you'll hear this. Night has a frightening appearance. Inhabiting this place are fearsome creatures. Please return to Vraja. Women should not remain here. O ones with beautiful waists. The same verse can be read. Night is without a frightening appearance. Inhabiting this place are creatures that are not fearsome. Please do not return to Vraja. Women should remain here, O ones with beautiful waists. Now, in English, we cannot say one thing negatively while also allowing it to be read positively. That's impossible in English. But in Sanskrit, it is not only possible, but it is done, and it is done right here. In fact, he doesn't stop there. Your mothers, fathers, sons, brothers, and husbands cannot find you. They are searching for you. Do not create anxiety for your families. So there's the negative. So this is where worldly dharma is being promoted and being preserved. Then the double entendre is read. Your mothers, fathers, sons, brothers, and husbands cannot find you. Even though they are searching for you, you must not be anxious for your families. In other words, be content with staying out here with me, Krishna says. Please go to the village without delay, O chaste ladies. Attend your husbands. Your calves and children are crying for you. You must go and feed. Go feed and nurse them. Excuse me. And then again, the negative, discouraging words of Krishna for the Vrajagopikas to return to the world of Dharma. And yet he says at the same time, please do not go back right away to attend your husbands, O chaste ladies. Your calves and children are crying for others, not for you, is implied. You need not feed and nurse them. So this is how Krishna is sort of playing with the Vrajagopika's emotions. On the one hand, you shouldn't be out here, and on the other hand, you should be here because this is perfection. And then he very sort of tantalizingly says, or perhaps your hearts are bound out of a deep affection for me. Since all living beings are dear to me, you also must have come to be near to me. So here Krishna is asserting his divine presence in the hearts of all living beings as the Antaryaman, the indwelling divinity. So how would you want to be dear to anyone else, given that the person closest to you is me, is I, Krishna says. And in other words, I'm already in your heart. Who can be closer to you than myself, Krishna is saying. For every woman, the highest dharma is to serve her husband without falsity, be agreeable toward his family members, and nourish the children. Again, a double entendre. For the dharma of all other women is to serve false husbands, be agreeable toward their family members, and nourish the children. This is where Krishna is asserting how he is the true and permanent and eternal husband. These temporary husbands in this world are simply false because they're not permanent. Why serve them? Let's move along here. Okay, let's just, so finally, for this does not lead to heaven nor to good reputation. Instead, it brings undesirable, painful, fearful results. Certainly, adultery is condemned everywhere by women from good families. Again, here with the discouraging words he is giving to the Vrajagopikas, saying that they should be good, chaste women to their husbands, and that this is only proper. And otherwise, it's considered adultery, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, he says, women from good families know adultery is found everywhere with their own husbands, and it should be condemned. So in other words, he's saying that this is a realm in which, being chaste to one's husband and adultery in relation to one's husband can be found. But with me, neither of those things are true. Neither being a false husband or someone with whom you could be adulterous. Okay. So the gopis respond later by asking Krishna, what is the nature of love? And so this is in the fourth act. And in this fourth act, Krishna affirms that Dharma should ideally be there in true friendships. So Dharma is not a negative thing in this lila, in this Vraja lila, but rather Dharma is something necessary to uphold, and at the same time something to transcend and go beyond. So the gopis inquire, what is love? And Krishna responds by saying, friends who love each other, yet ultimately strive for their own self-interest, do not find endearment nor fulfill Dharma. Indeed, such friends have no purpose other than self-interest. So this is clearly stating, in just a few words, that how Dharma is the right way to live. It is about what is right, and it's about what is good. And ultimately, it can be, in some sense, what is selfless, as expressed in the next verse. Those who love others who may not offer love in return are either parents or persons of compassion. O ladies with beautiful waists, they are persons of Dharma who are without fault and are truly endearing. So we've got here the positive relationship with Dharma in loving relationships. And there's a certain level of selflessness in Dharma, in this world. So Dharma is something to be upheld, clearly, in Krishna's own words. Ones who do not uphold Dharma in relationships are very selfish persons and are self-centered and are filled with pride and are not worthy of true connections with others. Then there are others here explained that there are persons who are neutral toward love. And so that's a different category. But the one relationship of the three that Krishna upholds is the one of Dharma. However, he goes on to express to the Vrajagopikas, now, O friends, in order to strengthen their love, I may not return even the love of those who love me. Like a poor man who obtains a treasure and then loses it. Such a person knows nothing else, filled with no other thought than regaining that treasure. Dear ladies, indeed, for my sake alone, you have abandoned the world, the Vedas, and even your relatives out of love for me. It was out of love for you that I became invisible, though you were never removed from my sight. Therefore, you should not be discontented with me. O dearest ones, I am your beloved. And then finally, he states, I am unable to reciprocate your faultless love for me, your own purity, and all that you have sacrificed for me, even over the lifetime of a great divinity, severing strong ties to your homes so difficult to overcome. You have lovingly worshipped me. May your reward be your own purity. This is very significant. So that this fourth act ends with this verse. And Krishna is stating here that the purity of love is the highest value. And that goes even beyond Dharma. Okay, so finally in the fifth act, right following this the final verse of the fourth act that we just read, we have here, then Govinda commenced the play of the rasa dance with his devoted ones. Those jewel-like maidens, joined together by love, linked their arms with one another. The festival of the rasa dance began blossoming forth with the perfect turning of a mandala circle of gopis who were beautifully adorned while praising and rejoicing. When the Supreme Lord of Yoga, who arranges for loving union, who is Krishna himself, entered among them between each pair, and when he grasped with his arms the necks of those young women, each thought she alone was at his side. Having multiplied himself in as many forms as there were cowherd women, he, the beloved Lord, even though all pleasure exists within himself, delighted in loving them within this divine play. And of course, I commissioned this painting along with the others that you've seen for my book. And here is a lovely depiction of the Ras Mandala, how Krishna duplicates himself multiple times to be intimately connected with each one of the Vrajagopikas. And this really symbolizes Parodharma. So while Dharma is to be upheld in this world, there is another world in which the bhakta steps, and that's the world of Parodharma. Why? Because this is the world of boundless love, of boundless happiness, as the Gita speaks about it. It's a ananta sukham. It is an unlimited happiness. Whereas in the world, happiness can be attained within ethical boundaries, but in the divine world in which the bhakta lives while being in the phenomenal world, that love is boundless and has no limits. It's a close-up of the mandala. Now, in winding things up here, I'd like to go to the Bhagavad Gita. This was not promised in the course, in the talk's description, abstract. However, I think that the Bhagavad Gita is also stating something so parallel to what's going on here in the Bhagavata Purana. The very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, as so many of you already know, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yoyotsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. I'd like to point out that the first 6 words of the Bhagavad Gita are so powerful in describing in a kind of seed form, bija, a bija form for the rest of the text, how the whole purpose of the Gita is to be highlighted. The first 6 words waste no time to grasp something of what the whole Gita is about and what it solves, what it resolves. So we have here the very first word of the Gita is Dharma itself. Dharma. And Dharma becomes incredibly important throughout the whole Gita, even up to the concluding chapter of the Gita, as we shall see. So Dharma on its field, Kuru on its field, they have come together in conflict. These are the first 6 words of the Gita. Understanding its symbolic meaning as it's being delivered would be something like this. On the field of our true inner nature, Dharma, right? On the field of our conditioned outer nature, represented by the specific dynasty from which all of the warriors in that Kurukshetra come, they have come together, okay, or when these 2 natures come together, they are in a conditioned state of conflict. So, Understanding the Gita as a whole, it could be symbolically translated in the following fashion. On the field of our true nature, on the field of our conditioned nature, when these two natures have come together in perfect harmony, such a person has attained the state of yoga. So this, again, is so powerfully delivered by the Bhagavad Gita. This first stage, as I mentioned, of the 4 stages at the start of the talk, the worldly condition is first delivered. How we can be delivered from a powerful worldly conditioning with the trigunyas and so many forces are sort of active here. But finding one's dharma, one's swadharma, finding one's real nature in this world is an incredibly powerful attainment. And this is something that is valued throughout the Gita. So the first chapter deals with Arjuna's conflict and despair. Arjuna Vishada Yoga is typically the way it's titled, the yoga of Arjuna's despair, his state of hopelessness. So it begins there, and it shows how the outer world conflict precipitates the a conflictual inner world, and one is bewildered by how to even think about things, and eventually that leads to the innermost world of a shattered heart. So this is the way the Bhagavad Gita begins. But it so happens, and I've analyzed this in other publications, but it so happens that the 18th chapter, which describes the great secret, the greater secret, and the greatest secret of all, corresponds to the outer world conflict with the great secret in the 18th chapter. The greater secret addresses the inner turmoil of how to think about these things, or jnana. And then finally, the innermost worlds, the shattered heart, is addressed by the greatest secret of all. So these 3 secrets are given: the Guhya, the Guhyatara, and the Guhyatamam, Sarva Guhyatamam. And Krishna's last words are a kind of rhetorical question to Arjuna. Have you focused on the single highest point among all of these teachings? What is that highest point? That highest point is this greatest secret of all. And the verse that appears before the greatest secret of all is 1863. The greatest secret of all is in verses 64 through 66. 66th verse being the famous Charama Shloka, as Sri Ramanujacharya has declared it to be. Thus, for you, this knowledge, which is a greater secret than the previous secret, is made known by me. Having fully grasped this with nothing overlooked, then act as you so choose. This is where free will is finally established in the Gita, when one has attained the levels of the great secret and the greater secret. The great secret being the world of Dharma. How to find one's Dharma is the great secret, and to act according to one's true heart. The greater secret is to act, to be able to perceive the greater picture within which this small world picture of Dharma appears, and to realize transcendence and the nature of the true soul. But the greatest secret of all is where we find a very profound statement in the Gita related to Parodharma. The greatest secret of all, once more, here again. Please hear. It is my supreme message. And he puts it very simply between these 2 quotation marks, the iti clause. You are so much loved by me. This is where Krishna is going with the whole Gita, and he exhorts Arjuna to come to him, and he assures him, truly you shall come to me This I promise you, for you are dearly loved by me. In this 1865 verse. And then finally, the verse we need to focus on here is the famous Charma Shloka. Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamikam Sharanam Vraja. Okay, so here, completely relinquishing all forms of Dharma, after establishing the great secret of Dharma throughout the Gita, and then going beyond it to a level of transcendence, but ultimately to go to the greatest secret of all, which is how the divinity embraces all souls and how souls return that embrace. This is beyond Dharma. That love goes beyond any form of Dharma, as this famous verse suggests. Completely relinquishing all forms of Dharma, come to me as your only shelter. I shall grant you freedom from all misfortune. Do not despair. Okay, thank you very much. I think we have time for any comments or questions, I believe. Let me stop sharing here. How do I stop the share? Oh, here we go. Okay.
Okay, Professor, it was a wonderful talk, very illuminating and very lucid. And I'm sure there will be at least a question we can take. And yeah, we have got two questions from these young scholars. So then we'll leave the whole thing to Professor Nagaraju, right?
Hello, sir. I want to ask a question related to Radha's position in later Vaishnava literature. Radha, as we know, is not explicitly mentioned in the Bhagavad Purana, but in later literatures, she is an intimate part of the rasa dance. So I want to ask this question: how does Bhagavad's depiction of rasa dance inform Radha's position in later Vaishnava literatures? For instance, in the works of Rupa Goswami and Jayadeva.
Yes. Yes, wonderful. Wonderful question. So she is not, you're correct, she is not mentioned by name in the Bhagavata Purana. However, acharyas in the Chaitanya lineage do acknowledge her presence as the special Vrajagopika with whom Krishna ran off. This is described in the second act of the Panchadhyayi. So she's identified as the singular gopi with whom Krishna runs off. And then later in the Brahmara Gita, the Song of the Black Bee, she's identified as the one speaking to the black bee in this kind of delirium of love, and beautiful verses, which I've translated also in my book. So she's identified in those ways, but she's not named. There is the verb araditaha, which is, using the same verb root for a past passive participle, rad. Okay, so she's hinted at according to the acharyas, and this is a little bit of an esoteric kind of interpretation. The Chaitanya Vaishnavas say that each of the Vrajagopikas are embodiments of individual emotions of Radha. So effectively, the Ras Mandala is synonymous with Radha Krishna. Radha is expressed in the circle of Vrajagopikas, and Krishna with Radha is represented as one who attends in his multiplied duplicate forms, attending to each one of Radha's emotions. So it's interpreted in a way that makes the bhakta, very endearing to Radha and Krishna. So yes, this is again, it's the ultimate lila for the Chaitanya lineage, as well as some other ones as well in their own ways. But Radha is certainly developed further in more esoteric kinds of literature and expressions, as you've been suggesting.
Well, thank you,
But
sir.
the Chaitanya lineage sees her there. In fact, I have to confess, in my depiction of the Ras Mandala, did you notice that I put Radha in the middle with Krishna? That is an eisegetical interpolation, okay? Drawing from the Chaitanya tradition, because she just has to be there according to the Chaitanya tradition, even though she is not mentioned at all. So as Krishna expands himself to each of the Vrajagopikas, Radha has expanded herself as the Ishwari, expanded herself to each one of the Vrajagopikas.
Yes, thank you, sir. That kind of answers my question.
Hello,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Thank you for the presentation. My question is about the translation. I noticed
Yes.
that some of the words you have left untranslated, like yoga maya, kunkuma, etc. So I just wanted to know
Yes.
what is the choice or what is the reason? I mean, yoga maya, etc. I could understand why you left, and dharma also I could understand why you left untranslated. But this kunkuma really caught my attention, like why you left such things untranslated. So because we are teachers
Right.
and we have to explain in the class, if you can tell on basis of what you choose to leave it like that, maybe it will be helpful for us. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. This is why I will forever be grateful to the person who invented footnotes. I put in a footnote, what is kumkuma? The reason I leave the word kumkuma there is because it's too hard to keep the poetic movement of the words in the quatrain verse. So I in the footnote below in the printed book, you will have an explanation of the vermilion that's used in the women use in the parts of the hair and so on, reddish color, so on. Too hard to explain in the middle of the translation, and that's why there is a footnote in the book itself. But I know all of you know what kumkuma is. Westerners don't. So yes, it requires an explanation. You're absolutely right. Good question. Oh, and by the way, Yoga Maya, I have a whole chapter in the book on Yoga Maya itself. So yes, Yoga Maya is a loaded concept and personage at the same time. So that's something I focus on in heavily, as well as Dharma.
Thank you so much, Professor. Now I request
Yeah,
Professor
thank you.
Nagaraju to take over and continue with the session and propose a vote of thanks also.
Thank you, Akshay and Professor Ashok. I think it was wonderful listening to Professor Graham Schweig. It's really, really wonderful listening to him. I was attentive to not to miss a sentence. What is very important? Am I audible?
Yes,
Akshay?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
One of the important things I just would like to tell first is most of us have read Bhagavata in our languages. That
Right.
is in the first millennium. You know, we have Bhagavata Purana in Odia and Bhagavatam in Telugu. I know these two texts a bit. We have read it in our languages, and we might have related it with this. These long texts were produced in the long Bhakti movement. But what is special about Professor Graham is he read it in Sanskrit. He read it in Sanskrit. So whatever linguistic nuances our writers, our poets in languages have taken, probably Sanskrit conveys that bit more. And Professor Graham Schweig was attentive to that excessive aspect of Sanskrit, which probably the Indian languages, our bhashas, might have not brought to that extent. That is one.
Mm.
The second is Dharma is in relation to Bhakti. I think that sums up it's a whole cultural subtext for Hindus.
Yeah.
Dharma in relation to Bhakti. In fact, if you see Dharma, as you have told, it is upholding. When we uphold, what do we uphold? We uphold certain principles that of culture has given in various spheres of activity, like Loka Dharma, Raja Dharma, Vritti Dharma, all that.
Yeah.
And you have collected to that, to Bhakti, and Bhakti doesn't, it is one sphere probably which covers all of these spheres. And
Yes.
probably you wanted to connect it to Bhakti, and in that, probably the individual's journey you have explained through the Sanskritic, text from the 4 stages, which is very important. Heart. You told about the worldly condition of the heart. We generally, particularly Hindus, we believe heart, kama, krodha, mada, maschara. These are the things. Heart is the locus for that. And when we move up, or awaken ourselves, like the gopis are awakened with the flute of Krishna, and that awakening leading to purification and deepening. And once you attain that state, there is this overflow of love, which is almost synonymous with Bhakti, with the divine, Bhakti to the divine. Probably you have explained that with textual references. Many of us might not have read because it's in Sanskrit. We read it in Telugu. And Bhagavata Purana, for those of us, it's the most important Purana of the Astadasya Puranas.
Yeah.
It's the most important Purana. And you have connected it to Bhagavad Gita, which is again the sum of all these Puranas. And, overall, I think it's a good talk. You have enlightened us. You have enlightened. I am sure the house present there would have been, responded to the talk more than those of us present, listening to you online. We would look forward to your book, that is the Yoga of Love that you said. We look forward to that. But Dharma, as we understand, it's a whole part of Hindu belief and Hindu life. And I'm very glad that a seminar like this is being, organized on that concept. And a scholar like you have come up, probably actually IIT Bhubaneswar and other institutions take this forward by organizing more such events with focused, with focus on aspects of Dharma. Thank you, Professor Graham Schweig. Thank you, Professor Ashok, and all those present whom I couldn't see much. And Akshay, is there any way we can?
We don't have any other way but to say a thank you with folded hands. That would be a great honor for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Graham Schweig, and hopefully you will be, I think many of our scholars from India would be in touch with you. Hopefully that might lead to further conversations on Dharma. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That would be an honor. And thank you so much for your wise words and observations, Professor. I very much appreciate it. And I thank the organizers, again, as you have done. Thanks for making this kind of conference possible and for inviting me. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.